Have you ever observed how some individuals seem to command the space around them with a quiet kind of intensity? They don't raise their voices or plead their cases. They simply step back, and suddenly the atmosphere trembles. Something shifts. People notice. They begin to wonder, to chase, to feel the absence like a sudden chill in a familiar room. Now picture yourself embracing that same quiet. Imagine resisting the urge to respond immediately, choosing stillness over reaction, silence over explanation, retreat over confrontation. What do you suppose would unfold? This is the secret territory where your power begins to bloom. When you no longer hand yourself over, emotionally, physically, psychologically, like loose change to whoever reaches first, the very world around you falters. Why? Because your reactions, your impulses, your predictability, these have been levers others pulled without resistance. But when you step away from the script, the play halts. Those who thought they knew your next line are suddenly left staring at a blank stage. Carl Jung once pointed out that every irritation we feel toward another holds a mirror to something unresolved within ourselves. Now reflect. When you become distant, when your emotional doors stay closed, who grows frantic? Who knocks harder? Who tries to ignite you just to see the old flame return? These reactions say more about them than they ever did about you. And in this strange spotlight, the strings of manipulation reveal themselves for what they are: subtle, habitual, and often unrecognized. You've given too many pieces of yourself away, in the name of peace, in fear of loss, for people who may have never really stood beside you at all. And with each overextended yes, each rushed reply, each emotional ripple, your reservoir dries out a little more. What remains at day's end? Weariness, restlessness, that ghost-like emptiness no words can reach. The truth is sharp and simple. You've been available for those who haven't even earned a second of your silence. This isn't a call to forsake humanity. It's an invitation to return to yourself, to walk the path Jung described as individuation, the unfolding of your authentic self, whole and unswayed. This path often begins not with a shout, but with a whisper, a sacred withdrawal, a refusal to be triggered on cue. So look within, truly. How long will you let your strings be pulled by other people's chaos? How many more times will you react, as if on reflex when someone pokes your most fragile wound? Perhaps it's time. Time to disappear from the roles you've outgrown. Time to become an enigma. Because the moment you stop showing up on demand, the entire dynamic shatters. We've been trained, since our earliest days, to always show up, to reply quickly, to keep smiling, to say yes when every cell in us aches for no. We were taught our value lives and our usefulness to others. But here's what no one told us with piercing clarity. This overavailability isn't noble, it's a cage. And as long as you keep believing that your worth is tied to how reachable you are, you'll keep handing your soul away until it's depleted, discarded, and overlooked the moment your usefulness expires. Availability, unchecked and constant, turns you into a fixture, predictable, expected, a tool. And people, they start using you like an emotional vending machine. Insert drama, get relief, then forget you until the next crisis. But here's the tragedy. You think being ever present will earn you presence in return. It doesn't. You're wearing Jung's persona, that smiling, agreeable mask crafted to be liked, accepted, praised. But this mask is a thief. It steals your breath while handing your identity over for applause. You say it's fine, even when you're crumbling. You reply to messages when your spirit begs for rest. You explain, justify, appease, as though the world is owed your constant explanation. And while you're starring on everyone else's stage, your own life quietly slips into the background. This chronic accessibility is a quiet betrayal of yourself, a sneaky craving for validation, a fear of disapproval, a desperate grip on how others perceive you. But the cost? Your peace, your precious energy, given out like it's endless when it's anything but. Here's the cruel paradox. Those who insist on your availability never really wanted you. They wanted the warmth you radiate, the cushion of your presence, the relief of your stability. The moment you pull back, they call you strange, distant, difficult. Not because you've changed, but because you stop serving their comfort. The more you're around, the less you're seen. The more predictable you become, the more disposable you feel. Nothing common is cherished. Nothing freely given is truly respected. So pause. Ask yourself, not who deserves your time, your ear, your empathy, but who truly deserves the echo of your silence. But before we answer, we need to peel back one more layer. Why do we react so compulsively? Why do we leap to please, defend, appease? Jung offered a key: psychic energy, your most intimate resource. And that, dear listener, is where we'll journey next. Because your energy, your true, radiant essence, is all you really own. And if you don't learn how to protect it, someone else will use it against you. When you argue just to prove a point or try to win over those who see you only as a utility, you're not being strong. You're leaking your essence into a void. The more you fight what disturbs you, the more you entangle yourself in it. That's not weakness. It's misdirection. Think of a soul constantly pouring from an open jar. The more you spill without aim, the more visible you become to those who prey on openness. Energy-draining people don't need to trap you. They just wait for you to keep emptying yourself in their direction. You wear yourself thin, believing you're resolving, helping, connecting. But you're really just exposing your pulse to hands that have never tried to steady it. Only squeeze it. Jung believed in the strength of sealed boundaries. Keeping your life force within your own orbit doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're choosing. A firm no without guilt. A calm silence without shame. A pause before action. These are signs of inner mastery. But mastery starts with observation. How often do you replay arguments in your mind like broken film reels? How many hours have you lost trying to decode someone's cruelty? This is energy with no return. You're feeding ghosts that should have faded and nursing wounds someone else keeps slicing open. Your vitality is not infinite. It's sacred. Guard it, and you'll stop being a puppet in someone else's play. Keep giving it away, and you become background noise, not a presence. An open hand is noble, but a constantly outstretched one is seen as a tool. The world doesn't honor what it can predict. It uses it. You may think you're choosing to react, but your emotions are often not your own. They're scripts written by others who know exactly where to tap. These subtle puppeteers don't shout, they whisper. They push old buttons with precision and watch you spark. Jung named this projection when people offload their unseen shadows onto someone else. You, the endlessly responsive one, become the perfect canvas. Not a person, but a role, a tool, a mirror. That friend who only calls in chaos, that partner who drains you then flatters you, they're not seeing you. They're performing a play, and you're the scenery they never questioned. And why do you let it continue? Because you fear being unloved, being alone, being invisible. But the most dangerous control isn't loud. It's the guilt-laced silence. The sense that you owe them your energy, that helping is your proof of worth, that saying no is cruelty. The manipulator doesn't need to overpower you. They just need you to keep being predictable. But when you stop, everything shifts. When your silence replaces your explanation, when your absence replaces your overcommitment, the game collapses. Their image of you shatters. They're forced to see not who you were to them, but who they've refused to be to themselves. And few can handle that. Your unavailability isn't rudeness. It's revelation. When you go quiet, people are left with their own noise, and that terrifies them. So they lash out, they criticize, they dramatize. Not because you did wrong, but because you stopped performing. As Jung said, we don't grow by fantasizing light. We grow by facing the dark. And when you step back from your role in others' illusions, their shadows step forward. They panic because you're no longer their distraction. And now the mask they placed on you has fallen. And for the first time, so has their power. You burn through your soul, defending your stance, diving into fruitless dialogue, chasing approval from those who do not see your worth. It's not weakness that leaves one drained. It's misdirection. Jung reminds us, what we resist persists. In every overreaction, we hand away our power, forging invisible chains that tether us to the noise. Exhaustion invites danger. When your spirit is thin, the opportunists draw near. They sense it, not with words but with instinct. They see your openness, your compulsion to fix, to explain, to soothe, and they feed on it. The one who lacks boundaries becomes a tool in the hands of those who never deserve them. Jung spoke of the healthy psyche, contained, deliberate, sovereign. To say no without guilt, to meet provocation with silence, to witness rather than leap. Power lives in the choice to act, not in the compulsion to react. Yet we squander our nights obsessing over broken conversations, over the words never said and the ones we should not have spoken. We keep ghosts alive, and in doing so, we lose ourselves. Guarded energy grants presence, quiet, undeniable presence. A room. Jung spoke of the healthy psyche, contained, deliberate, sovereign. To say no without guilt, to meet provocation with silence, to witness rather than leap. Power lives in the choice to act, not in the compulsion to react. Yet we squander our nights obsessing over broken conversations, over the words never said and the ones we should not have spoken. We keep ghosts alive, and in doing so, we lose ourselves. Guarded energy grants presence, quiet, undeniable presence. A room shifts when you walk in, but scattered energy dissolves you. You become easy prey to a world that shows no mercy for the ever available. So ask yourself, where do you break? What pulls you from your center? These are your escape points. And it is here your work must begin, not to grow cold, but to grow selective. To no longer be the mirror others project their shadows onto. For as Jung taught, when you stop playing your part in someone else's illusion, their illusion shatters, and that they cannot bear. Because silence disarms. The manipulators panic not at your absence, but at their loss of control. They lash out not because you are wrong, but because you have stopped feeding their image of you. And are you ready for that? Ready to stand misunderstood, blamed, rejected, because you chose yourself? It is in that silence, the silence after rupture, where something powerful begins. Silence, not as withdrawal, but as radiant presence. Silence that observes rather than reacts, that notices the manipulations, the cycles, the traps. Silence that sees. This world screams. It debates, performs, pleads. It fears quiet. But true silence, the kind born of clarity, is not weakness. It is mastery. When you refuse to dance to someone else's rhythm, you change the music entirely. Silence is a boundary, a mirror turned inward, a retreat not into isolation, but into sovereignty. It unnerves the takers, those who depended on your chaos to avoid their own. It strips them of their narrative and forces them into the discomfort of their own echo. And they will say you've changed, that you're distant, arrogant, but that is only because they can no longer reach what they once owned. You no longer perform. Maturity does this. It thins the words. You begin to speak only where your soul truly lives. Not everyone deserves your truth. Some only ever wanted your availability, not your depth. So let the silence shape you. Let it lead you inward to where your energy awaits. Not to be spent recklessly, but to be offered wisely. And from there, choose. Not everyone deserves access. Not everything is worth your reaction. To live from this place is not to be hard. It is to be whole. And wholeness, quiet and luminous, no longer begs to be understood. Are you prepared to sit with the ache of being unseen, unheard, or unwelcome, simply because you chose to guard the gates of your own soul? Can you withstand the hush that follows the fracture? Because within that hush, beyond the noise, beyond the need to explain, lives a quiet storm, a rebirth. And this, right here, is where everything begins to transform. We exist in a realm addicted to clamor. Every throat wants to speak. Every mind wants to correct. Every ego wants to win, even at the cost of inner quiet. But hidden from common sight lies a force almost forgotten, the force of sacred silence. This is not the silence of defeat. It is the silence that sees all, hears all, and chooses to spend nothing. It is the thunder wrapped in velvet. To remain silent while chaos demands your voice is not weakness. It is alchemy. When you cease reacting, you begin to see. Patterns emerge. Games unravel. Illusions fall away. Suddenly you are lucid, and lucidity terrifies those who fed off your confusion. Ever notice how some flinch when you say nothing? How they reach, prod, provoke? Just to hear your voice, not because they miss you, but because your quiet takes their story away. As long as you reply, you remain on their stage. But when you vanish behind silence, the script dissolves. The game ends. The mask drops. True silence is not withdrawal. It is sovereignty. It's the act of walking out of someone else's emotional theater without apologizing for your exit. And yes, those who only value the character you played will not understand the one who left the play. They will call you cold, distant, arrogant. But remember, these cries come from those who wanted your usefulness, not your wholeness. Silence has a cost. It will strip away the shallow. It will shed the false. But in that shedding, something sacred returns. You. Words become sacred currency, and you learn not every ear deserves your truth. Not every moment calls for your energy, because sometimes silence is not escape, it is evolution. And here's the secret. The less you speak, the more you are heard by yourself. Individuation, the becoming of who you truly are, requires this retreat. Carl Jung knew this. In silence, you hear your original voice, free from the world's echoes. You no longer ask, who should I be? You begin to remember, who was I before they told me? Yet beware. When you stop performing, the audience may leave. And that is good, because now the theater is yours. As your presence contracts, your power expands. And the discomfort you feel, that guilt, that worry, that whisper that says you're selfish, those are not truths. They are withdrawal symptoms from a life lived in emotional overextension. You were taught to serve, to soothe, to stay available. But now you are learning the art of sacred no, to say not today without flinching, to close the door without explanation, to hold your peace as others demand your fire. It is not coldness, it is clarity. It is not cruelty, it is containment. You do not owe a map to your absence. Your absence is its own language. And those unsettled by it, they reveal the truth. They needed your disarray to feel balanced. They needed your reaction to feel real. But the silence you now carry, it isn't empty. It's reconstructive. It rearranges you from within. It reclaims energy that was leaking through every unnecessary apology, every unchosen yes. This is the inner sanctuary where your essence returns. And yet, this quiet doesn't promise ease. First comes the stillness, loud and strange. You'll wonder if you've erred, if you're being harsh, if the ones leaving were ever truly yours. But then, the stillness softens, becomes sacred, becomes solitude, not the lonely kind, the sovereign kind, the kind that walks with open eyes, a quiet spine, and no need to explain. Where confusion once lived, you find clarity. Where neediness once cried, you find calm. Where fragments scattered, you find strength. You stop reacting. You begin creating. You stop echoing others. You begin originating from your own center. And those who recoil from your distance, they never wanted you. They wanted the role you played. And now that the mask is gone, they are left with the truth. They never really saw you. Let them go. In that loss, you find your reflection. In that silence, you find your song. In that solitude, you find the you that has always waited. You will be called strange. You will be misunderstood. You will lose many, but you will regain the one person who matters, your whole self. This is not an end. It is a genesis, a return to the sacred, a farewell to crumbs disguised as love. And if these words stirred something ancient in you, if a stillness rose as you read, then perhaps you are already walking this path. And if you are, know this. You were never meant to be understood by those who needed your silence to feel superior. You were meant to be free. So now I ask, are you willing to be misread, misjudged, and even disliked for the sake of your own soul? Are you ready to choose the rare, sacred act of choosing yourself? Then let this be your vow. I choose my peace. Now walk, quietly, but fully. You're almost home.